I
believe
thought
she lives in New York City, and tonight she does look so pretty.
All right, I'm gonna not. Man, I wish you hadn't said that. It just I'm assuming I'm editing this episode, and it makes more work for me. Is the thing, Josh?
I wish you hadn't said that. It's such a funny thing to say on our audio only. The one thing you bring to this show, I wish you hadn't.
Welcome to Bible Boys, a podcast where two ex-evangelical siblings and an ex-Catholic non-sibling watch Christian media and either praise or condemn it. I'm Aaron.
I'm Josh.
I'm Michael.
This week, we resume our trek through the good book with the History Channel Bible Miniseries, Episode 3, Homeland.
Yeah.
Before we skip over some genocide, please be sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, like and comment on our video, and follow us on Twitter at The Bible Boys.
Yeah.
Oh, Joshua, are you limbering up?
I'm sorry, boys. I can't hear you over all of this awesome murder that I'm doing.
Yeah,
this is war horny, guys. This
War horny does not fully describe it, Michael. This is like if War was like 12 and grew up Christian their entire life, and they thought if they touched their downstairs region, they'd go to hell. And then one night, they put on this episode and just went to town.
On their downstairs region?
On their downstairs region.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for clarifying. Yeah, no, I mean, like, so we did a Battles BC about the Siege of Jericho, right?
Yes, which will be out, I promise.
Okay, that's the one we haven't released. All right, great.
Yeah, I love Battles BC, and normally Battles BC is the most horny thing we ever watch. This is close.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this quite has the same 300 style blood effects, but it's getting there.
Yeah, it feels close.
This is the one that had like those Dr. Pepper commercials from the like 2010s that are like, Dr. Pepper, it's for men only. Men love Dr. Pepper. Women can't handle the stuff.
Is that true?
You don't remember those commercials?
No. I stopped watching TV in 2011 when I started dating my wife.
So. And then you guys moved into the farmland.
Correct. They don't sell Dr. Pepper in Indiana because it's bad for corn.
You remember these, right, Michael?
Of course I do. I'm finding one to give to Aaron right now.
Great, good. We'll just drop this into the episode. Listen, we haven't had an episode in a couple weeks because we're all very busy. So we just want to, I guess the last episode was the Nephilim conspiracy, so this isn't actually going to be that weird for the rest of you. You weren't joking, okay.
Enjoying the film? Of course not. Because this is our movie! And Dr. Pepper 10 is our soda. It's only 10 manly calories, but with all 23 flavors of Dr. Pepper. It's what guys want, like this. Catchphrase. So you can keep the romantic comedies and lady drinks. We're good. Dr. Pepper 10, it's not for women.
No, I'm so infrequently am I painfully correct, but the title of this video that my brother found incredibly quick is Dr. Pepper 10, it's not for women.
No, he's talking about how there's like 10 manly calories. He just he has a laser rifle. He tripped a bunch of people on a motorcycle with a net after throwing a Dr. Pepper. It's not for women is the tagline. I'm in hell.
It's so funny because I watched that as a kid and it was like, man, I guess I'm not that much of a guy. And yeah, it hit me late.
Yeah, you know how sometimes, like in 2020, a lot of people were realizing that they were transgender or agender or you know, non-binary because they didn't have to do their gender presentation constantly after being in quarantine the whole time. Well, this is a little bit like that, except for the opposite reason. It's like, oh, this is the gender I'm supposed to perform? Oh, I don't know about this one, boys.
It's kind of like if you walked into your gender and it's a high school play, and you're like, I thought I liked that.
I guess not.
No, I drink Dr. Pepper, wasn't that into it, and then the him just fell right off my pronouns.
Excellent. Great. Good.
Anyway, Bibles.
So, just because we don't subscribe to that kind of gender presentation doesn't mean that everybody in 2013 when this series was created didn't, because this is some real choice presentations of masculinity. I think there are, there's a lot of fights, there's a lot of dudes being dudes, there's a lot of disrespecting women. I think.
Holy shit, there's a lot.
Yeah, this is my least favorite episode of the Bible we've watched so far.
Me too.
I'm gonna put out something. I'm calling it now, and I'll defend myself as we get to it. I think this might be the most problematic TV show we have watched ever.
I don't think that's true.
I'll bring it. I have facts and evidence.
Okay, do you mean TV show or any visual media?
TV show. God's Not Dead.
God's Not Dead is a movie, so I guess that's fair.
Yeah. For now.
Okay, all right.
We'd watch the shit out of that TV show.
I mean, I don't know, right? This is your namesake, but I can go ahead. So this one, it starts out with kind of like a recap of the last episode. Moses had just, received the 10 Commandments, delivered everybody from Egypt. Things are great. And now it cuts to, Joshua being like, all right, we're here. This is the promised land. And you know why it's promised to us? Because God said so. And it doesn't really matter that there are other people living here, because God promised us. So we're going to take it. And, right, this is the Hebrew conquest of what, they refer to the Old Testament as Israel. But like, I have a difficult time feeling like the Israelites are the good guys in this one.
Oh my god, yeah.
How did you all feel about the way they were portrayed?
I never thought I'd say the sentence. I miss the talking heads. I miss when a guy in glasses would pop up with a random university that he might have graduated from and is like, now here's why they're massacring everyone. Because when you have to figure it out on your own, it's just not good.
Especially when the answer is because God told us to. Like, that's flimsy at best.
It's a bad look. So, the main thing that we get here is the siege of Jericho, right? This is a famous, siege where, we'll talk about how the walls fall down, but, you probably, if you know anything about the Old Testament, you've probably heard the story. But, like, we get a lot of, I want to say, like, interiority, and that's not really the right word, but like we get a lot of the Jericho. I don't know what you call the people who live in Jericho. It's not Jerichites, Jerichoans. I guess it's Jerichoans, right? Because Chicago is Chicagoans. Yeah, I don't think there's an official demonym. Whatever. The people who live in Jericho, they're very afraid, is the main thing that we learn about them. We don't even really get a lot of justification that they should be slaughtered to a man. There's no...
We got like two rude people.
We get the guy who calls Rahab a, quote, little whore. And that part sucks and I don't like it, but like, I don't think that's justification enough to butcher a city. Like, yeah, there's one shitty dude in there, but they do very much kill everybody except for Rahab's family.
Yeah, this is the Sodom and Gomorrah era of the Bible, though, where it's like, maybe that is enough of a reason in terms of the Bible to kill a whole city.
That's a good point, because we get Rahab, everybody's afraid of the Israelites. These two Israeli spies, like kind of sneak in and Rahab like kind of follows them into her home, and then they like immediately catch her and like have swords pointed at her throat and also at her children. And she's like, hey, please don't hurt my kids. Also, we've heard about your God. He commands the wind and splits the oceans. We don't have the technology to fight that. we're really afraid of you. And they're like, oh, sick. That's awesome. They go back and report to Joshua, and they're like, oh, the weakness isn't in the walls. It's in their hearts. And it's like, y'all are not the good guys.
Well, right before that, when these spies are just like tiptoeing around Jericho, I swear one of the guards just turns around and looks at two guys and goes, the Israelis, or like the Israelites. It's like, they don't have name tags. They're just wearing shirts. And then the guys pull out these little knives and they're like, for Israel. And then just fucking slit like 5 guys' throats.
That's a great point, Josh.
The weakness is not in their fucking hearts, it's in their necks, which are apparently extremely cuttable.
No, that's a great point, because I did make the note, the Israelites, they have basically butter knives, right? They're like extremely short daggers, and they do some like, it looks like they're going like Bruce Lee mode on like just like a ton of these Jericho guards. It's like 6 Jericho guards versus 2 of these dudes, and they just tear them apart. It's honestly hard to watch.
It's like John Wick without any of the reason for the killing.
Right, truly. It's just like they just have 2 pencils and they are just tearing through these dudes like tissue paper. It's rough.
I do want to make a point, and this is, I have so many of these. I don't know how many, if I'll get through them all. One commenter under the YouTube video wanted everyone to understand that Jericho was a fort and not a city. End of comment.
Oh, is that true?
I don't fucking know. It doesn't matter. I don't know why that mattered so much to them.
Huh. Interesting. Well, anyway, we get the main thing, which is that Rahab promises to help the Israelites. In exchange, they give her like a ribbon or whatever, and they tie it around her door so that way when the Israelites come into the city, they don't kill her whole family. So that's nice of them. But then we get like this scene of Joshua, who I actually looked up the actor, Andrew Scarborough, most probably best known for probably his role in Downton Abbey. I don't know if either of you watched Downton Abbey.
Not a scene.
I have seen some of it.
Does Tim Drew mean anything to you?
No, I don't think I've seen enough of it to really recognize.
Okay, that's fair.
He's the one that does all of the murdering.
I don't know. Yeah, there's that scene in Downton Abbey where they just kill a whole city. He might have been there.
Out Edinburgh.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, that's just there is actually the guy who plays Samuel or Samson has a great filmography, so we'll get there in a second. But yeah, just thought I should bring up Andrew Scarborough. But he's basically praying, and he's like, "Oh man, what are we gonna do? God, please help me." And then an angel shows up, and he looks a lot like Ezio from Assassin's Creed 2. He has like a red hood. And the angel's like, yeah, you know what? For Moses, we split the water. For you, Joshua, we're going to split stone. And then all like metal guitars start playing, and it's really sick. And he slams the bluntest sword in the world into the ground and like cracks the ground. It's very silly. It's awesome.
The beginning of that scene is also great because Joshua's like walking up to the desert. He's like, Moses, what do we go? It's like a Force Ghost moment of like calling upon Obi-Wan of like, if only Moses were here. What a little pickle we've gotten ourselves into. Oh, hey, angel from God.
It's good. The framing devices, they're trying stuff, right? They have such limited time because they're cramming these stories and like these like characters that we don't really have a lot to work with. Like, if we're working off the Bible, and we're trying to get like the biggest notes of like what your characters are, it's hard to characterize Joshua as anything other than a guy who fought a lot of battles, right? I bet there are stories that like kind of give us more of an insight into what his character is supposed to be, but we only got 6 episodes. We only got, 50-ish minutes each. Like, it's hard to really do anything besides just like, well, this is what we're working with. And, maybe some brave soul will do like the long form, like 8-season-long Old Testament deep dive where we really get into like Joshua's backstory and we can see the nuances of him as a character. I think that would be bad, but I think it would be awesome for someone to try. But unfortunately here, he's just kind of a guy.
I think it would be great for us.
Oh no, if that happened, that would be the new Bible Boys. We would just switch to covering that like weekly. That would be great. This is why I want them to make a Left Behind TV show. Or like a God's Not Dead cartoon. I want the God's Not Dead anime, is what I'm saying.
God, the Newsboys anime intro. Somebody, quick, pull up the Naruto intro and put Newsboys over it.
I might. I don't have the time in my life to do that, but it's a long weekend. I'll think about it.
Awesome.
Anyway, basically, yeah, we get like, we get the scene of the Israelites marching around the city of Jericho. You know, they're chanting, they're praying, etc. On the 7th day, they do their 7 laps. They blow the trumpets, and the walls come down. And again, we see a lot of the people inside Jericho being scared out of their fucking minds. They are all screaming and crying, and even Rahab, her kids are like crying, and she's just like, "Hey, what's happening?" Like she's very afraid, and that makes me feel bad. It's like I don't want to root for the guys who are causing this.
No, it's really hard to root for them. It's really hard to watch this and be like, yeah, our protagonists are the best.
Right, there is a point where they are like shepherding Rahab's family out of the city, and she has to literally carry her child over like 3 corpses just strewn in the street. It's just like, this is quite a framing device.
I'm sorry, idiots. You should have been born in the right society and worshipped the right God. I don't know what to tell you.
It's great. Yeah. And then at the very end, after all the massacre happens, Joshua kills the shitty guy who is being mean to Rahab. So I guess that's that dude's character arc. There's this bit where they're all celebrating their victory, and they're all like, "Yeah, this victory belongs to the Lord, Israel." And Rahab kind of like looks around at everybody, and she looks terrified. She looks like she's a prisoner, and she's just like, Israel. Like it does not read like she's having a good time.
Even as a kid, that scene fucked me up so bad. Because, like, I, for obvious reasons, loved the Jericho story. Obsessed with it. Great story, 10 out of 10. I loved how they killed the people. But when I watched this as a baby teenager, I was like, man, she looks sad and upset, and I kind of get it, because there's a ton of dead people around her, and I bet she's just trying to figure out how to not be one of the dead people.
Right.
Yeah, she definitely doesn't get a hero storyline in this. She gets the victim storyline of like, oh shit, I traded one city for another, and it doesn't seem like it's much better.
Right. I hate to say it, but the Battles BC episode did more for Rahab's character than this.
So much better. We didn't get any espionage. We didn't get any. They used the rope to have people climb up into the walls to take it out from the inside.
Right.
We didn't get none of that.
It's unfortunate that this is the way that they. I don't think the women in this particular episode took any major W's. Unfortunately.
This is the closest female dub we get for the episode.
Yes. Any more notes on the Siege of Jericho, or shall we move to Samson?
I have a question for you boys.
Sure.
How did you find the acting in this episode in general?
Fine. I don't know. I didn't think it was great.
I felt like it took a significant downturn, and like I have a lot of leeway for TV acting, especially on shows like this.
That's kind of wild, because I have acclaimed reviewer Cold Slugger who said that these actors are better than what TV and movies are showing these days. God's gifts used in the right way.
Yeah, wow. When I think of the golden age of television, I definitely think of 2013. That's when Hollywood was really doing its best.
Well, just the idea of the guy pulling out the butter knife and slashing at a guy's adjacent to his throat, and like that was God looking down, going like, no, let me really dig in on this one. Let me spend some time making this guy good at this.
Yeah, no, that's a very funny. Anyway, 100 years have passed, and now, the Israelites had conquered the Promised Land, but now the Philistines have taken over. Everything is sad because the Philistines are big and scary and mean, and they ride their chariots through our roads, really just tearing up our roads. It's terrible for civic infrastructure. But we get introduced to Samson, and I'm willing to bet both of you all have seen the actor who plays Samson before. The actor is Nonso Anozie. He has been in such films as the 2015 Cinderella, the 2011 Conan the Barbarian, but more recently, things like the 2020 Artemis Fowl. He played Artemis Fowl's like bodyguard / butler, which is very funny. He was in the 2015 Pan, the terrible. I think it was Hugh Jackman was in it, but that's like a weird Peter Pan reboot.
Oh, the Nirvana one?
Yes, the Nirvana one. Thank you, Josh. But most importantly, he was also in The Sandman.
Oh shit.
As Wyvern.
Oh shit.
But most importantly to me, I think he was in The Mandalorian, the most recent season, as the Pirate King Gorian Shard.
Oh fuck yeah!
He was.
Yeah, it fucking rules. Oh, also he was in Ted Lasso for a bit, I guess, but most important is The Mandalorian. But yeah, I thought Mr. Alonso did like a really good. Anonsi did a really good job. I really liked his portrayal as Samson. It's not like he needed to have like a lot of gravitas. He was just kind of like the hugest dude in the world, just like beating the shit out of people. But I thought he did a great job. He looked like he was having a good time.
Yeah, he seems like he's having fun.
He chews those action scenes. Like, he is in there and he is getting the most out of it. And I think that this could have been a lot worse with an actor that was not like really giving it their all.
No.
You guys do remember the insane dumb controversy around this though, right? Well, yeah, like during this time period, a lot of people were upset because Samson was not white, which is an insane thing to think about people that existed in the Middle East, where you're a lot closer to like Africa than you are like, France or Germany or modern day Great Britain.
I do remember this. I just don't understand the problem with making Samson black either. Like, this is a work of fiction retelling, a Bible story. Can't we just cast people who are best for the roles and call it okay?
The last thing the series wants to do is get historical accuracy involved because
Right.
we're so far off.
And like, if we are going for historical accuracy, there shouldn't be a single white person in any of these stories.
No. It's baffling. I remember our dad was specifically like frustrated with this conversation of him just being like, can't we just enjoy the fun show where Samson murders people? As a common Brian Greene W there.
Yeah, that one is a very on-brand W.
But yeah, man, people were pissed, and it was the exact people you'd expect it to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of hay that gets made about TV being woke these days. But like, there's always been this weird backlash against, especially in Christianity, right? Of people, of color being in stories that are about quote unquote white people, being as like so many of these like biblical characters. Like Joshua was played by I believe a Welshman in this episode. I'll confirm Mr. Scarborough's thing in a sec. But like, there's always this. No, he's from Yorkshire, but right. It is very silly to think that this is still an issue, unfortunately.
I think that we should just meet it with an equal but opposite reaction and just get outraged every time a white person is cast in one of these roles.
I'm okay with this. On the pure fact that I believe Christian Bale was cast as Moses at one point.
Oh, is that true?
I think he was in like the Exodus movie.
I
Which
think
how have we
that's
not
true.
watched?
Wait, hold. I was gonna say Exodus movie.
How have we
Hold
not
up.
watched this? Give me
This-
2 seconds.
Was it?
There's a
Moses.
Christian Bale Exodus movie.
Gods and Kings.
Oh my god.
How have we not watched this, boys? And like, I don't want to be this guy. He's so white in this movie too.
This came out the same year as Noah.
Holy shit!
Oh my god, Joel Edgerton's in it.
I've never seen the
Aaron
movie.
Paul, Sigourney
never seen it.
Weaver. Yeah,
Sigourney
this one's going on the list. Oh, I bet it sucks. I bet
Oh,
this
look at
is
his
dog
little
shit. I'm
helmet.
so excited.
Look at his helmet.
Ridley Scott directed this. What the fuck?
Holy shit! What if it's good? What if it's good?
What if it kicks ass? God
What
damn
if
it.
it's like really good?
Oh my
What if it
lord.
takes a dark twist on it and like Moses has like a drinking problem?
Yeah, I hope so.
Ben Kingsley? God
This
damn.
is
Okay.
incredible.
I gotta exit out this tab, otherwise that's all I'm gonna talk about for the.
So, yeah, basically we get Samson, right? The setup for Samson is that God told his mom that she was going to have the strongest son in the world, but he can't drink alcohol, he can't eat anything unclean, and Samson's hair must never be cut. That's kind of the big one, is that he can't cut his hair. And at first, everyone's like, yeah, Samson's whooping the Philistines, because there's just like a scene where at first he's like, oh, I've got to fight the Philistines. It's my destiny. But then they're like, but then he marries one, and that's bad. And his mom's like, I don't know about this one.
Okay, boys, this is why I think this is the most problematic thing we've watched in a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna read you a quote, and I just want to
Oh boy.
your thoughts on it. I never realized Samson was black and the Philistines were white, and didn't want to mix races. And I don't want to give that YouTube commenter any credence, but they do talk about mixing races and purity, and both Samson's mom and the Philistines are really upset about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more framed as the Philistines, but like Samson's mom is still like not thrilled about it.
Yeah, she's really upset.
And maybe there's an interesting story here about like unpacking that and dealing with it, but this show is much more interested in the murder of it all.
Yeah, basically. The I like the villains here in the Philistine section, because they're basically just like, all right, we've got one playbook, and it's get to Samson through a woman. And the first time it goes really bad because they, unfortunately they trap Samson's wife and her dad in a house and they burn it down and kill them both, which is like, okay, that's sad. I feel bad for Samson. Samson goes on like a fucking killing spree with his bare hands, which is very cool. It's a very good sequence. I think it's great.
So you guys know the 80s trope where like if you if you just kind of gently grab a man's chin, his neck just shatters. It's just like 8 of those.
Yeah, no, it's great. At one point he gets like a stick that's lying on the ground and just like completely flips a man over. It's awesome. But yeah, at a certain point, like he kills so many Philistines, and the guy, the bad Philistine guy, who is like, man, that didn't work super good. So now we're going to, execute, one Israelite a day until Samson is imprisoned by us. So they do that, and the Israelites are like, Samson, please surrender yourself. And Samson's like, okay. Then they try to kill him, the Philistines do, after he's been like chained up, and then like he just breaks out of his chains, and then we get the jawbone sequence, which is like an iconic like I play a lot of video games. I listen to a lot of podcasts about video games. And I guess spoilers for God of War 2018. But the God of War franchise is a franchise in which a very angry man, Kratos, does a lot of terrible violence to, not just the gods of the Greek pantheon in the first 3 games, but also like random women. He kind of sucks and is a terrible guy in the first 3 games because that is what the, mid 2000s were like as far as gaming goes. But like in the 4th game, there's a bit where he has to do the Bugs Bunny, Lord forgive me, it's time to go back to the old me meme, where he gets his old, like, Greek swords out from underneath his house. He's got them, like, buried underneath his house, and, like, I've never actually played the game, but I know this is, like, a great sequence, but, like, he gets these, like, blades, I think they're, like, the blades of Sparta or something, and it's like that. This is the equivalent of that in the Bible, where it's like, oh shit, Samson's got the jawbone! Oh fuck! Like, all the fucking Old Testament heads are freaking out, and like he gets this jawbone off the ground and just starts owning dudes. he splits it in half and then he goes dually jawbones on people. And it's just like, you can tell the era that this was made in, because it's like, of course, an action sequence has to have a man break something into 2 weapons and then just own dudes with them. And it's awesome. It's sick. It works for me.
Dear listener, I can't over explain how many people he stabs with a jawbone. There's not a lot of good stabbing bits on jawbones, but he does it and it's awesome and I love it. Not only that, Aaron missed out on one of my favorite parts. He's chained up. He goes Castlevania for a second, where he is just whipping people with a chain, just like left and right. And does he do the little flip with the jawbone, or did my brain make that?
I like to think he did. I did notice there's a criticism. This is going to be another stupid pool. There's a criticism of, I want to say, The Avengers 2012, where Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow is being interrogated by someone, like a Russian general, and then she has to break out of it, and like she whips her hair back, and like that like hits a guy and kind of knocks him on his ass. And some people are like, "Oh wow, I can't believe her hair is so powerful." Cinema Saints ding.
Got him.
But that's kind of what's happening with the chains. Like, he is fully like hurling people through like stalls, like into walls with these chains. It's great. I love it.
Just the pure force of angry Christian fury. And I know what you're thinking. There's no Christ yet, but in this Bible, they're all Christian.
Mm-hmm. And you can't say angry Jewish fury either, because that's bad, and we don't condone that. But yeah, then we get Delilah. It's immediately after the jawbone scene. He's just like kind of taking a breather. He looks over to his right and then he sees Delilah and he's like, oh shit, hey girl.
What's even funnier, because he's thirsty and she's got water and he's like, water please, and drinks it and he's like, thank you. Anyway, come here often. My wife just died.
What do we think about Delilah here?
What personality, man? I don't know what to go off
of. We know she's a Philistine.
Yep.
She had water.
We know, she's got water. We know she's pretty. I thought she was pretty attractive. Played by Kirsten Waring, who is from Essex, known for being in films such as Fish Tank, Avengement, Rise of the Foot Soldier. I can't find anything that... World of Warcraft Battle for Azeroth? Okay, that's one. Not a whole lot of, like, super well-known properties, but, Miss Waring gets around. Anyway, we get kind of a sex scene. It's probably the raunchiest scene, in maybe any Christian media property that I've seen, that of recent memory.
We watched Noah get drunk and get naked in Noah. That's pretty raunchy.
Yeah, but like this is like just a straight up like sex scene. It's not, there's not any nudity, but like they do bone.
They jawbone.
Stop. And like I just, I thought it was an interesting choice. I don't know if it's the way to like just villainize Delilah by being like, oh, she's having sex, she's evil. I don't know. It didn't. It seemed like it was kind of a fine, like they fall in love.
And I do want to just point out here, we at Bible Boys are against nudity if it advances the plot. It only can be there if it doesn't advance the plot.
That's true. If it is in any way plot relevant, you have to get it out.
Yep.
Game of Thrones sexplanation, love it. Absolutely great. But character development, get out of here.
And if you don't like character development, you'll love this episode of the Bible.
You'll love most of the episodes of our podcast. We should watch better media. Have you all thought about what if we watched better media?
What if
I'm
we
always
just,
thinking that.
it's for Aaron's birthday month, what if we just all watch good movies instead of Michael's spooky season?
Here's the thing: is that I'm usually the one that like brings up the shitty media. Is the problem? We'll
But
think
anyway,
about
they
it.
fuck. It's great. Delilah gets approached by the Philistines, and they're like, "Hey, you think your husband's great? He kills tons of people." And she's like, "Not anymore."
That was the old him. Come on. I like that the Philistines' only plan is like, well, we have to ask his wife to betray him. We have to try to hurt him using a woman he loves, and it goes super bad for them both times.
Do you think there was one guy in the corner that kept suggesting like a bow and arrow? And everyone was like, "Shut up, Kyle. We aren't going to use a bow and arrow. We have to make this weird."
We have to have a weird, elaborate plot. Look, we already have the chest full of silver coins. Okay, Kyle, what do you want us to do with this?
Buy bows and arrows, you dumbass.
Fuck off, Kyle. It's great. Yeah, basically they're just like, my read on Delilah here is that she like genuinely likes him, and then they bring out this chest of silver coins, and she's like, oh, well, I guess I'll kill my husband, the strongest man in the universe, over, the equivalent of like $10,000.
They could have even done something interesting where, I hate when the media makes us come up with better ideas, where he did kill a ton of like her people. And like they could have dug into that and dug into the guilt maybe and like given us anything. Maybe she was really attached to that water and this was the long con.
I mean, like, I think, maybe you could make a character choice and give her any agency, right? And be like, oh, this is a boring narrative choice, but maybe it's like, oh, you actually, slaughtered like all of my brothers went to go fight you that one time, and you've killed my whole family. Like, even something as tropey and boring as that would have given us some motivation besides she's just a greedy, horny woman, and that's all we know about her. I don't know. It's silly. It's bad. And then when she asks about his strength later on, he immediately is just like, "Oh yeah, it's because of my hair." Why do you ask, babe? No, never mind. I'm going to sleep now.
Anyway, I got the scissors at the nightstand. I'm a
yeah, just leave them there and don't touch them. It's fine.
I can never cut this, but if you were to, here's how you would do it.
It's so bad.
So, boys, Michael, I know you heard this explanation because we have the same dad, and he was our youth pastor for a great deal of time. Aaron, did you hear the explanation that it was not actually his hair, but it was like he got his strength through God, but because he said it came from his hair and not God, that's why like Delilah was able to cut his hair and it worked. Like it was his own hubris.
I haven't heard that, but I don't like it. I think it's very boring.
I think this fits perfectly into, as we know, my favorite trope in the Bible. God's a little scamp. I love that he gives someone a superpower and he's like, you know how you get rid of it? A very easily cuttable substance that comes out of your hair.
Yes, you will. This is like one of those, like, what's the game where it's like you get this nice thing, but there's this downside.
It was like the button thing.
That's kind of what I'm thinking about. It used to be a game. I don't know. I'm thinking maybe of like Would You Rather, but that's not really the right thing I'm thinking of. But like it's something like that. A thing where it's like, okay, you get $1 million, but you get diarrhea forever too. It's like, okay, what's the trade-off here? And this one's truly like, yeah, you get super strength, but you do have like a lot of hair, and that's gonna be so annoying for you.
Also, like, God's
Heavy.
making him fight guys with swords.
Right.
He does not really keep his hair like tied up real close to his body a lot of times. It could
Right.
get, man, I'm just saying, God really wanted him to get his hair cut and lose his powers.
Right. And I mean, like, that's kind of like, I read a little bit on Wikipedia about Samson, and like, it seems like Samson may have like been influenced by the Epic of Gilgamesh, right? He might have some lineage from that story, so like maybe that's why this reads more as like a fairy tale than just like a straight up, and then the Israelites killed everybody. But it is a weird narrative choice.
I do love the scene where, the Philistines run in and they grab Samson and he does the, huh? What?
Uh-huh.
As he tries to like send them flying.
All right.
And then the Philistine dumping the silver onto the ground.
Very rude of the Philistines to be like, here's your payment, like taking handfuls of silver and kind of like throwing them on the ground. And at first she's like, she doesn't look offended, but she's more just like annoyed, just like, what are you doing, man?
Like, why?
Put it into my bank account. Like, give me direct deposit. This is weird.
This is so inconvenient. Also, my favorite part of this whole sequence is just like when Samson allegedly has lost his strength and he is trying to fight these dudes. And you're looking at, Mr. Anozi, who is, I would say, conservatively 6 feet tall and 300 pounds, like just an enormous dude, like going up against like other actors who are, at minimum, and at most, like, like a head shorter than him, and like kind of bouncing off them. It's like, no, that man could, like, if he sneezed, he would knock me into a wall. Like, that dude is huge. It's very funny.
If we were a bigger podcast, I'd pay so much money for me and Aaron to recreate this scene with this actor. Just us.
We could get a what do you call it? What are those? A cameo, right?
Us short kings being like, hey, we got you.
Yeah, and it would be really funny for us to just, because I bet we're both like each a foot shorter than this dude, and then just pretend to beat him up. That would be great.
While
listen,
Michael watches
all...
golds just fall from the ground slowly.
Right. If listeners, you gotta spread the word. You gotta generate that word of mouth. That way we can get Mr. Nunso Anosi on the podcast so we can recreate this scene, because I think it would be extremely funny.
And I think we're all on the record. He's by far the best part of this episode.
Yes 100%.
Easily.
He's awesome. His biceps are bigger than my head. Anyway, we get the scene where, they put his eyes out. He is, praying to God. He's like, God, give me my strength back one more time. Topples the temple. I think the temple toppling scene is cool because, like, he has to actually take out both pillars. He's, like, going back and forth once his strength is returned and, like, smashing himself against them. And, like, he's fighting the Philistines, but his eyes are out. So he's, like, a little bit sloppier, but he's still just kind of, like, stretching his arms out and, like, throwing them through windows and shit. I thought it was fun.
Yeah, this is specifically, like, a story that, for whatever reason, our dad just fucking loved. So, like, he told it to us a lot. So, like, anytime I see any Samson narrative, I get very excited. Is specifically the, like, I think the ending part's awesome. It's just, like, a cool, I don't want to say fairy tale or, like, myth, because that seems incredibly rude. But, like, it does have a mythic feel. I think that's a very safe thing to say. Has a very mythic feel to its storytelling. And I love it anytime it shows up in media. But by God, is it hard to pay attention when they just do Delilah so dirty?
It is.
Yeah. And at the very end, they have his mom like kind of dig him out, and she's like mourning. And I was like, see, that's like an actual character beat that like didn't happen in like anything else in this episode, which is I thought was just like kind of a nice artistic choice. I was like, okay, like you all have made shows, you know how to like build sympathy and generate like an emotional response in an audience, like. At least they're kind of trying here after all of the incredible bloodshed. Anything else about Samson before we move on to the very last, like, afterthought scene here?
Truly an afterthought.
I almost missed it.
Do you all know who Samuel is?
Vaguely.
Yeah.
Right. I was like, oh yeah, he's like kind of associated with Saul, maybe. Basically they show up, they show the scene of the Israelites asking Samuel the prophet to, help them find a king. And he's like, well, my sons are gonna just become the prophets after I die, so like it's not a big deal. And they're like, your son sucks shit, old man. Which I thought was very good. And he's like, you're right, they do kind of suck. I guess I'll go find you a king. And like the last shot of this, and I think this is because these aired like in pairs, right? Like this was actually only shown over, like 3 weeks, and like this next episode, this is actually more of a pre-intro to the next episode that's coming after this. But like basically they just show Saul and they show him being anointed as king of Israel. And do either of you know anything about like how anointing was done?
Mm-mm.
No. It's not
Okay.
really big in the Southern Baptist scene.
Right. Okay. So I didn't know anything either, but I assumed it was on the top of the head.
Yeah.
Samuel does not do this to Saul. He like pours it like in between his eyes, and it like runs down his face and gets all into his mouth, and it's the grossest shit I've ever seen.
It makes a lot of sense with the idea that like these two in the Bible do not like one another, and it's funny to imagine that from the very beginning. That's what like sets them apart.
That's a really good read. I like that a lot. She's like, man, fuck this guy. Eat some oil.
Also, this guy being like, "Oh, cool, I'm about to be." Why'd you pour it there? What the fuck, man?
It's in my teeth, dog.
Oh, there's like dirt in that, man.
It was just like such a weirdly dissonant thing to happen at the very end of this episode, which was just already very strangely paced. But that's how this ends. Is just Saul as the king and has a lot of oil in his mouth.
I want to point out, I always found it very challenging with the concept of, like why would a group of people beg for a monarchy? Like why they're like, oh, everyone else has one, we want one. And that's where the show expertly continues its casting choices by picking people from the UK. And I think that's bold.
Listen, yeah, no. The age of having black and brown people is over. Back to white people only.
But when the white people are begging for a monarch to rule over them, I'm like, yeah, listen, they just do it better. Like, the British are just so good at begging to be ruled over by a monarch from God. I don't know what to tell you.
Mm-hmm. That's just how it is. Oh, God in heaven. Shall we rate this episode?
Yeah, I think we should.
Yeah, I'm going to give this one 2 jawbones.
It's pretty good. I'm going to give this Pope Benedict the Sixth. That's number 132, which is just over the exact middle point of my Pope ranking.
I'm gonna give this one bad haircut.
All right.
Every time.
All right. Well, when we are not making our way through this great miniseries and just learning more about the Old Testament and ourselves, where can we be found on the internet?
I'm at Green History on Twitter.
I'm at that green light on Twitter, and I am waiting for my Blue Sky invitation. Thank you.
I am at AaronSXL on Twitter. My main website is aavoigt.com, where I talk about tabletop RPGs, health policy, and writing. I do another podcast with my friend Layla. That's at Mortified Pod. We just released 2 episodes. One about the Two Towers Lord of the Rings movie, which was a lot of fun. and also about Final Fantasy X and how deeply, and 10 too, and how deeply those various media properties influenced us as creatives. So, wildly dissonant choices, but I think will inform listeners about the ways in which I certainly evaluate media. Because I think of any media outside of the Bible and Catholicism in general that's influenced me, it's Lord of the Rings and Final Fantasy. So check that out if that sounds interesting to you. But listeners, if you are sad that we are no longer allowed to cut our own hair in order to give us the strength to do cool shit with jawbones, just remember that it is okay to cry, because even Jesus wept. We'll see you all next time.